A very good evening to everybody. I'm Dr. Swati Bharadwaj, pediatric nephrologist at BLK Center for Child Health. So today I would be talking about interpretation of nuclear scans in pediatric nephrology. As we have just seen that how ultrasound is usually the first investigation when we are evaluating a renal pathology, but nuclear scans can be a very useful investigation. So in this topic, I would be covering the procedure, the different radionuclides used, how to interpret a nuclear scan, and through various case-based scenarios, I would also be discussing how we can utilize this knowledge. So nuclear imaging has been available for nearly more than 5 decades. We have other tools like ultrasound, MCOG, CT scan, which we routinely use in identifying various renal conditions, but they provide important anatomical details. In addition, the advantage of nuclear medicine is it provides assessment of function as well, and the radiation hazard is really low. It does not require a fancy equipment, and together with other investigations, it provides a valuable morphofunctional information which helps us in early diagnosis and management of numerous renal conditions. So radio tracer are radio-labeled molecules which are injected intravenously, and then the radiation emitted from these radio tracers is detected by a gamma camera by a patient is simply lying on under the camera, and the image formed are used to give information. It shows the physiological function of the system as well, and advantage is even sick patients can undergo these tests. Sedation is not required, and there's no allergies or hypersensitivity to the radio tracer. So virtually there are no contraindications to performing these tests. So this is the machine at my hospital. You can see a patient who's lying on the scanner beneath the gamma camera. Young infants should lie still. So young infants can be gently swaddled and fastened with a Velcro strip, and sedation can be avoided in most of the situations. So what are the different radiopharmaceuticals which are used? They are basically three category of agents. One which are handled by the kidney by glomerular filtration. So these agents, particularly the technetium DTPA, can be used for assessment of function, that is the glomerular filtration rate. Other agents commonly used are MAG3 and EC, labeled with technetium. These are handled by the kidneys by tubular secretion. So they can be used for assessment of renal perfusion as well as the drainage function of the kidneys. So it can be utilized in conditions where we are suspecting any obstruction in the system. Third category of agents are which are extracted by the tubules and they bind to the cortex, technetium DMSA and technetium glucoheptonate, and they are therefore useful in giving structural information, that is cortical imaging. So what are the indications of various nuclear scans? They can be used to assess perfusion, assessment of function like differential function of the kidneys and glomerular filtration rate, assessment of obstruction and its severity and how does it functionally affect the kidneys, like in cases of pelviureteric junction obstruction or uretrovesical junction obstruction. Then they can be used in looking for scars in acute pyelonephritis or vesicoureteric reflux. Captopril renogram has been used in assessment of renovascular hypertension, and these scans also play a very important role in assessment of a donor for renal transplant as well as assessment of allograft function. So let's look at a case. This is a 4-year-old girl who presented with recurrent urinary tract infections, and on history she also had bladder bowel dysfunction, severe constipation, and she was in the habit of holding urine. So as usual, first investigation was ultrasound. Kidney sizes were normal, but there was right significant hydronephrosis. And after treating UTI, the MCU showed grade 4 reflux and left grade 1 reflux. So what is the purpose of evaluation in a UTI? Basically, we are looking for any underlying pathological condition which puts the patient at risk of having recurrent UTI as well as renal damage. So ultrasound, MCOG, and a DMSA scan. These are the three core imaging modalities which we routinely use. So this patient has already shown to have a reflux. So next, we are interested in knowing whether or not these UTIs or reflux has affected the kidneys and lead to scarring. So which radionuclide to be used? Since we are interested in knowing about cortical scarring, so cortical imaging agent, that is DMSA or GH, have to be used. So this patient underwent a DMSA scan. So how is the procedure performed? The patient arrives at the hospital with a prior appointment. Only thing to take care is good hydration should be maintained for these tests. No fasting is required. After placing an IV line, the radio tracer, a calculated dose according to weight of the child, is placed. After injection of radio tracer, a time of 2 hours is given so that the radio tracer is taken up by the kidneys and it gives a good image. And after 2 hours, it is a static image. The child lies down in the scanner and different plane images are obtained in different planes. So this is the anterior image, this is a posterior image, and anterior and posterior right and left oblique views are also obtained. So this DMSA scan was normal. So in a normal scan, the kidneys are seen regular in outline. Since the tracer binds to the cortex, so cortex, rim of cortex will be seen darker, and a central lucency belongs to the collecting system. This is normal. And in the oblique view, the kidney which is closer to the camera will appear more dense and the other one will appear less brighter. So this child had a normal DMSA scan. So she was put on antibiotic prophylaxis and her constipation was managed and she was advised good voiding habits and followed up conservatively. So another patient, he is a 14-year-old boy who presented to us with a urinary tract infection and deranged renal functions. And he was a known case of neurogenic bladder with a meningomyelocele operated in infancy. But this patient had not been following management for neurogenic bladder. He was not doing clean intermittent catheterization. He was okay in wearing diapers rather. So and this was episode of UTI after a long time. He had regular dribbling of the urine. Ultrasound showed bilateral hydrourethronephrosis and left kidney was enlarged. And MCUG showed a tuberculated small capacity bladder with bilateral grade 4, grade 5 reflux. So after treating UTI, his renal functions went back to normal, but we did a DMSA scan. This showed extensive scarring, which can be seen as multiple photopenic areas over both the kidneys. The left kidney is enlarged and a dilated collecting system can also be seen. So this patient had bilateral scarred kidneys. So he was counseled for aggressive management of neurogenic bladder with clean intermittent catheterization, and he's obviously at risk for progression to chronic kidney disease. Another thing which we can get from the DMSA scan is differential renal function. So his differential renal function was 36% for the right kidney and 64% for the left kidney. So when we do a scan during acute episode of infection, we will still see some abnormalities in the form of photopenic areas, but these have still potential to resolve. So DMSA scan for diagnosing of acute pyelonephritis is not recommended. Rather, interval DMSA scan after 4 to 6 months should be done so that we know that these scars are permanent. And it is not always possible to differentiate, but in acute pyelonephritis, the outline of the kidney is not usually disturbed and photopenic areas are seen, whereas in permanent scar, outline of the kidney is disturbed and there are signs of volume loss. So what is differential function? This is basically, if we consider that function of both the kidneys combined is 100%, then how much percentage does each kidney contribute? And this can simply be estimated by drawing region of interest around both the kidneys and just besides the kidneys for subtracting the background radioactivity. And in anterior and posterior views, the number of radioactive counts are estimated from both the kidneys, and geometric mean value is determined, which gives us the differential function of each of the kidneys. So in this case, the right kidney has function of 48.9% and left kidney is 51%, which is normal. Even in normal health, function is not exactly 50-50. So let's look at another case. This is a 3-month-old boy with antenatal detected bilateral hydroureteronephrosis. Since AP diameter was more than 10 millimeter, he was started on cephalexin prophylaxis after birth, and MCUG showed bilateral grade 5 reflux. So at 3 months of age, he underwent a DMSA scan. And we see here that there is a poorly functioning left kidney. So probably this is a hypodysplasia of the left kidney because of vesicoureteric reflux. So reflux can be detected in two ways. Either it comes into attention during evaluation of a urinary tract infection, and further scarring can be prevented with antibiotic prophylaxis, and if there are breakthrough UTI, surgery may be needed. While a reflux which is detected during evaluation of antenatal hydronephrosis, when it is associated with global scarring or hypodysplasia of the kidney, carries more risk of progression to chronic kidney disease. So, another patient, a 11-year-old boy who presented with headache for 15 days. His vision was normal. There was no other complaint. Headache was severe and persistent due to waking up from the sleep. His height and weight were within normal range, and the only remarkable finding on his physical examination was very high blood pressure, which was more than 95 plus 12 millimeter of mercury for his age and height, which was persistent and on repeated measurements. So he was evaluated. Obviously, renal and renovascular hypertension are the most common causes of secondary hypertension in childhood. So ultrasound and renal vessel Doppler was normal. His cardiovascular system examination and 2D echo was also normal, and his KFT and electrolytes were also normal. Thyroid functions were normal, and he was also evaluated for endocrine causes. So plasma and urine catecholamines were also normal. So he later on also underwent a CT angiography which showed normal renal vessels. Then a DMSA scan was done which showed multiple scars in the left kidney, and MC was normal. So probably his hypertension was because of scarring result from reflux, though he had never had urinary tract infection. And this case scenario is not uncommon. So DMSA can be one of the tools in assessment of a patient with high blood pressure. In addition, DMSA may be helpful in assessment of various congenital renal anomalies like polycystic kidney, a horseshoe kidney, single kidney with megaureter, ectopic kidney, malrotated kidney. And in addition to confirming the structure and anomaly, it also tells us about the differential function. How well is that kidney functioning? So to summarize, the indications of DMSA scan are for detection of focal renal parenchymal abnormalities, as in a late DMSA scan for scarring after a UTI. Detection of acute pyelonephritis is now not recommended, and detection of associated congenital anomalies, ectopic kidney, assessment of its function, and confirmation of non-functional multicystic kidney. So moving on to the next case, this is a 12-and-a-half-year-old boy referred for evaluation of a colicky pain in the right lumbar region. Sorry for the typographical error. It was left lumbar region. Ultrasound showed left hydronephrosis, and AP diameter of the renal pelvis, as you can see, it is 20 millimeter with thinning of the cortex and dilatation of the peripheral calyces as well. And on examination, there was non-tender fullness in the right upper quadrant. So he was suspected of having a left pelvic, so it is left as well, fullness in the left upper quadrant. Suspected to have left pelvic junction obstruction. So what radionuclide can be used to evaluate his kidney damage and decide whether or not this patient requires surgical intervention? So here we want to assess the drainage function of the kidney, and also we are interested in perfusion of the kidney. So we are using the excreted agent, which and DTPA, MAG3 or EC, either of these agents. So how to interpret a normal standard renal dynamic scan? So since in this scan the images are taken while the tracer is being taken up and drained off by the kidney, so it is also known as renal dynamic scan. So basically we have to look at the perfusion images, the drainage images, then curves, T half of the drainage, and in the end differential function and glomerular filtration rate. So this is a normal standard renal dynamic scan. In the top, the images which are at the intervals of seconds show the perfusion. Within 5 seconds of injection, the tracer starts showing up in the kidneys. Both the kidneys should start getting bright simultaneously, and they should be equally bright in normal kidneys. And in the second half, we have images which are taken at the interval of minutes rather than seconds, and they show the drainage and the gradual appearance of the tracer in the bladder. And normal kidneys should also lose the intensity simultaneously. And next we look at the curves. So this peak, the curve is given for right and left kidney separately. The peak represents the perfusion peak. So this peak should be attained within 5 minutes. If it is delayed, that means the perfusion of the kidneys is impaired. And then we have the curve the curve further shows the drainage of the tracer from both the kidneys. The T half can be calculated, and then some numbers are given with each of the curve. So the left kidney peaked at 2.2 minutes, which is normal. The right kidney also peaked around the same time, and drainage T half of both the kidneys is also within normal limit. Drainage T half of 10 minutes is normal. More than 20 minutes is prolonged, and between 10 to 20 minutes it is indeterminate. And lastly, we see the percentage of uptake. We can see here the differential function of the left kidney was 51.7%, and that of right kidney was 48.3%. So here this was a EC scan, so GFR cannot be estimated. For GFR, we have to use DTPA. So coming to the index patient with left pelviureteric junction obstruction, he also underwent a dynamic renal scan. Here we can see the uptake perfusion of the left and right kidney is almost peak is simultaneous. And then, but in the panel, you can see the left kidney brightens later. Left kidney brightens later as compared to the right kidney, and in the drainage panel, it holds the contrast for a longer time. The left kidney has already lost all the contrast. The right kidney has already lost all the contrast, but the left kidney still continues to be. And from the drainage curves, we can see the left kidney showed obstructed drainage. So here the differential function was 32.9% for the left kidney and 67% for the right kidney, and T half was 6.25 minutes in the right kidney and 102 minutes for the left kidney, which is definitely prolonged. Another thing is a diuretic is also used along with the renal dynamic scan to augment the drainage of the tracer. Different protocols may be used. Sometimes it may be injected 15 minutes prior or simultaneously with the tracer, or even 10 to 20 minutes after. So different places follow different protocols, but there is not much difference. So this patient had left pelviureteric junction obstruction, and as we can see in the delayed images, at 5 hours, at 3 hours, the contrast continues to be there in the left kidney. As against, this is another patient with pelviureteric junction obstruction. Here, the right kidney shows obstructed drainage, but the function is preserved. The left kidney has function of 44%, right kidney has 55%. So probably this patient can be managed with conservative approach. So what are the indications for surgery in pelviureteric junction obstruction? When there is impaired renal function, when the split renal function is less than 40%, when there is deterioration of function on follow-up, or there are any symptoms like pain or UTI, then surgery is indicated. So this is a DTPA scan of a patient with bilateral hydroureteronephrosis with no reflux on MCOG. So scan was done to rule out obstruction. One point I would like to emphasize here is, because of renal immaturity, the GFR in infants is lower as compared to adults. So EC and MAC3 are better agents than DTPA because these are secreted by the tubules, and DTPA is filtered by the glomerulus, so they are better agents. And the first scan should not be done before 6 weeks of age for the same reason of renal immaturity. So in this scan, you can see both the kidneys, the uptake is preserved and the drainage is also by 42 minutes. Both the kidneys are drained appreciably well. Lasix was given at 20 minutes. So here we have non-obstructed hydronephrotic kidneys. The drainage curves also show for both the kidneys there is non-obstructive drainage, and drainage t-half is 9 minutes and 5 minutes, which is less than 10 minutes. So this was an infant with right hydroureteronephrosis. Here we can see the obstructed drainage of the right kidney, and since in ultrasound here the ureter is also visualized prominent, and since ultrasound also gave us information that ureter is dilated, so this is a case of right vesico-ureteric junction obstruction. So to interpret the details of the nuclear scans, one should always take in account information available from the ultrasound and other ancillary investigations. So this was a child with neurogenic bladder and hydronephrotic right kidney. So scan was done to rule out obstruction again. So this is what the scan, it will look like a flat curve in case of a poorly functioning kidney. And if you look at the split function, it is 88% for the left and 11.9% for the right. So to summarize, dynamic renal scan gives information about renal perfusion, cortical function and excretion. In normal kidneys, tracer can be seen within 5 seconds, cortical peak appears by 5 minutes, and if drainage is delayed, T-half is delayed beyond 20 minutes, it is delayed excretion, and MAC3 and EC are better than DGPA in infants. Other applications of nuclear studies is direct DRCG. Compared to MCUG, it has got better sensitivity, but disadvantages again, urinary catheterization has to be done like in MCUG. Here, but the advantage is that reflux can be detected both in the filling phase of the bladder as well as the emptying phase. It is so sensitivity is increased, but radiation burden is lower than that of MCU. But urethral anatomy, which is very crucial, especially in boys or when posterior urethral wall or obstructive uropathy is suspected, it is not possible to ascertain the anatomy, and grading of reflux is also not specific. So it may be useful for follow-up of patients of VUR. Instead of doing an MCUG, we can do a DRCG scan. And there is another way of doing to avoid catheterization by indirect radionuclide cystography. Here a DTPA is injected, and once it has reached the bladder and child is asked to void, and in this case we can see and the child is voiding, there is again increase in activity in the renal pelvis, and the curve also shows rise in peak in activity in the renal pelvis, and this confirms the reflux. So as we come to grading, with MCU, the reflux is graded into 5 categories depending on its severity. While in DRCG, the grading is not as specific. Grade 1 when reflux is limited to the ureter. Grade 2 is moderate when it reaches the pelvis, and grade 3 is severe when it is seen it's seen with dilated pelvis. So the grading, so it can very well be used for follow-up of the patient. There are other applications which I'm not going to discuss because of time constraints in renal transplantation, assessment of renovascular hypertension, and trauma. To summarize, nuclear scans give us very important functional information, but one should know about the pathophysiology of the kidneys, of the tracers, to decide which investigation will best suit a patient. And also we should, while interpreting the scans, the technical pitfalls also should be known. And remember, 3 nucleotide classes: the filtered agents, excreted agents, and cortical imaging agents, and 3 panels in dynamic renogram: the perfusion curve, drainage of function, and one also has to look at the curves to decide about management of that particular patient. Thank you for patient listening. If there are any questions, I would be happy to take.